Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushaq, choose what really matters.
Back in Afghanistan, the Taliban's new cabinet has a visibility problem. As in, they cannot be seen in public, not because they're shy or modest, but because most of them are terror suspects. It's not an ideal situation. The Taliban are the new rulers of Afghanistan, and they want to be treated like rulers. So what are they asking for? To be removed from the United States terror blacklist. Let me show you the official statement. This is what it says. Pentagon officials have remarked that some cabinet members of the Islamic Emirate or family members of late Jalaluddin Haqqani are on the US blacklists and still targets. The Islamic Emirate considers this position a clear violation of the Doha Agreement, which is neither in the interest of the United States nor Afghanistan. Some basic facts first. The US has designated the Haqqani network as a foreign terror group. So have Canada and Britain. Haqqani leaders cannot fly abroad. They cannot buy weapons. Their assets are frozen. Despite this, they are top dogs in the Taliban cabinet. We counted at least 4 Haqqani ministers. The problem is, these are wanted men. If they set foot in the US, they could be arrested. So the Taliban want them dropped from the US terror list. They say it was promised in the Doha Agreement. Frankly, that was another American train wreck. Washington put the Taliban on the negotiation table, legitimized them, and basically spilled their entire war strategy. The US agreed to withdraw from Afghanistan by May 1st, 2021. All the Taliban had to do was wait. But there's more in the Doha Agreement. It wasn't just about leaving Afghanistan. It also mentions intra-Afghan peace talks and the future of US sanctions on the Taliban. Here's what the deal says, and I'm quoting, "With the start of the intra-Afghan negotiations, the US will initiate an administrative review of current US sanctions and rewards list against members of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan with the goal of removing these sanctions by August 27, 2020. 2020. Those dates are not relevant anymore, but the letter of the agreement is. Did the US promise to lift sanctions on the Taliban? They did. It clearly says so in the agreement. But was it an unconditional promise? Doesn't seem like it. The delisting process was to begin after the intra-Afghan talks. Well, those talks were abandoned by the Taliban. They overthrew the civilian government. So is the Doha Agreement still alive? Both sides have violated its terms. Joe Biden changed the deadline for troop withdrawal. The Taliban gave up on talks. The deal was the beginning of the end for Afghanistan. The US gave up way too much and got very little in return. For starters, they gave the Taliban a deadline, May 1st, and we're out. For a group that waited 20 years in the wilderness, this was gold. Just one more year and Afghanistan would be theirs. The US also promised to release Taliban prisoners. Just to be clear, these were prisoners of the Afghan government, not the American government, yet they promised to release them. Same with the intra-Afghan talks. America demanded reconciliation, but the Afghan government was not even part of the Doha Agreement. These are big concessions. What did the US get in return? Security for its own troops, not the Afghan soldiers or civilians, but Americans. Just America's own soldiers. There was nothing on human rights, nothing on freedom for women, and most importantly, no enforcement mechanism. The Doha Agreement was pinned on hope. Hope that the Taliban will keep their word. Big surprise, they did not. So what does America do? Make more concessions. The Pentagon says military cooperation with the Taliban is possible. The State Department says recognition must be earned.
And the trajectory of its relationship with us and with the rest of the world will depend on its actions. Now, the Taliban has made a series of commitments publicly and privately, including with regard to freedom of travel, with regard to combating terrorism and not allowing Afghanistan to be used as a launching point for terrorism directed at us or at anyone else, including as well upholding the basic rights of the Afghan people, to include women and girls and minorities, to have some inclusivity in government, to avoid reprisals.
What actions is the US waiting for? The Taliban have banned protests, they're beating up journalists, they have banned women's sports. What more does the US want? Joe Biden keeps saying that human rights are at the center of his foreign policy. He also says human rights cannot be upheld at gunpoint, so I guess his only option is talks. Right now, the US has a narrow focus in Afghanistan. Evacuation and terrorism, human rights, freedoms, gender equality can wait apparently. And this narrow vision works perfectly in the Taliban's favor. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushaq, choose what really matters.